It's easy to forget these days, but there was a time when The Matrix was looking like it'd be the next great sci-fi franchise. Heading into 1999, all the attention was centered on George Lucas's return to Star Wars after more than a decade and a half. But while The Phantom Menace might have dominated the box office, it was The Matrix that dominated pop culture. During the next few years, it seemed like you couldn't go more than 5 minutes without seeing a reference to it. So naturally, it didn't take long for a multimedia empire to pop up around The Matrix, which included action figures, short films, comic books, and of course, video games. Now let's be clear, the games based on The Matrix weren't exactly great. They were janky and unpolished at their best, and buggy and borderline broken at their worst. But even with all these problems, a lot of people still look back on these games fondly. And that's because despite all their flaws, these games were still a lot of fun, and honestly, when you look at The Matrix, you realize a developer would have had to fuck things up tremendously for these games to have failed. Like seriously, has there ever been a series that was more suited for a video game adaptation than The Matrix? It takes two tried and true gaming genres, shooters and beat 'em ups, merges them together, and does so in glorious bullet time. So while the games might have been lacking in key areas, when it came to allowing the player to feel like they were participating in one of the series' iconic fight scenes, they delivered more often than not. During an era when licensed games were often terrible and wouldn't really resemble the movies they were based on, the fact that the Matrix games were just good enough was in fact good enough for most fans. But imagine if we were to receive a game that fully realized the potential of The Matrix. While Resurrections might have soured some fans' opinion of the franchise, Hogwarts Legacy has recently shown that a relatively dormant fanbase will show out when something has a positive reception. Now, I'm not going to pretend that The Matrix has the reach of Harry Potter, but if a trailer were to drop showcasing a red pill running through the mega city, beating up security guards, and then being cornered by an agent, I guarantee there's a lot of aging millennials who would momentarily feel like an edgy teenager again. Now, a lot has changed in the 20 years since the peak of The Matrix's popularity, but something tells me that a game filled with a bunch of fights that look like they were pulled straight out of an anime, and shootouts that resemble what you'd see in John Wick, would still do pretty well with audiences today. I remember losing my shit over seeing the lobby scene recreated on the PS2. Just imagine what type of insanity we could get with the power of modern consoles. And that's not to mention the ton of narrative potential that you have with a Matrix game. You could go with the young Morpheus story that Hollywood had apparently been kicking around, or if you didn't want to be too constrained by the continuity of the films, you could have the game set in one of the different incarnations of the Matrix that the architect mentions. Hell, if you wanted to get really out there, you could even make a game where you play as an agent, hunting down red pills, jumping from citizen to citizen, Driver San Francisco style. I know Epic released that Matrix Awakens demo a while back, and I'm hoping that the positive reception inspires some developer to acquire the license and give fans the Matrix games that they truly deserve.
But I can only show you the door. You're the one that has to walk through it.